Okay, good morning. Today is the 26th at 9 a.m. My name is Jay Bolin, Public Safety Chairman. I'm joined with Councilwoman Melanie Long, Christy Ash, Mayor Skip Lyles, Councilman Bill Duvall, Natalie Warnack, Chief City Manager Danny Roberts, Chief Lowry, Chief Johnson, is it Lieutenant Moon? Chief Moon? Really? Look at you growing up in the world. Good job, Moon. So the purpose of this meeting this morning is just to kind of open up discussion. I have some concerns I've been talking with Chief Lowry about regarding staffing, salary issues. So I just want to have an open discussion to talk about some concerns that Chief Lowry and Chief Johnson are seeing in their profession, ways that we can help, and if nothing else, the citizens and the council will have an idea of where some of the discussions Chief Lowry and I have been having lately, Chief Johnson and I have been having lately. So Chief Lowry, would you come up so we can kind of take some of our, our conversations we've been having and kind of open it up. I guess the short of it is, and Chief Lowry will attest to this, police departments across the United States are really struggling to find police officers. And we're not sure throwing money at them is the answer, because that's what's being done now. So I guess I'll pause there. I'll let you kind of take it, and then we'll.
Yes, sir. So, as Mr. Bolin said, this is a constant and ongoing conversation. Mr. Roberts and I talk about it several times a week at a minimum. And Mr. Bolin asked me what's the answer to this issue of a shortage of applicants for law enforcement jobs. And I really wish that I had that answer, because if I did, I think I could make a large fortune consulting with other agencies, but I don't have that answer. I do talk every single day with chiefs, sheriffs, chief deputies, whatever it may be, in agencies in our area, in North Fulton, in the metro, with ranging from agencies of a very small number of officers to agencies with hundreds and hundreds of officers. And none of us have the answer for this. Well, let me back up. About a little over a month ago, I was at a Chiefs Association meeting, and they had Mike Ayers, who's the director of the Georgia Post Council that does all of our certifications and all of that there. And he said at that meeting that beginning in roughly mid-2020, which was, of course, right at the height of COVID, it was also when we had riots in many cities across the country, intense scrutiny and pressure being placed on law enforcement officers. And in about an 18-month time period in the state of Georgia, we lost 10,000 certified police officers. Some of those obviously retired, but a great number of them just left the profession. During that same time period, we added back, through people going to the police academy and things like that, about 7,500 new certifications, which is a good thing, but there's a huge difference between a 15-year veteran officer and somebody who just graduated from the police academy, not only to the agency, but in our communities. Doesn't mean they're not good officers, doesn't mean they're not doing all the right things, but it takes quite some time for them to really get good at what they do. In order to address some of that, Director Ayers has put some things in place that are probably long overdue. One of those things is peace officer certifications don't transfer automatically from state to state. So when we have people who relocate here to Georgia that were peace officers in other states, there was a very complicated and not, really didn't work, that well, quite honestly, process for them to become certified in the state of Georgia. Now, Director Ayers' take on this is a little bit different than the directors we've had in the past, and I think it's correct. The state of Georgia right now requires 408 contact hours in the police academy to be certified as a law enforcement officer. 408. The only state in the nation that requires less than that is Mississippi at 400. That's 1 day difference. It doesn't really make sense to have somebody coming, let's say, from Illinois, where their police academy is 24 weeks, to a state where the police academy is 12 weeks and have to do it all over again. That's just not that smart. So they have brought this down, and there are about 6 or 8 topics, mainly Georgia law, quite honestly, that they have to complete, and then their certification transfers. I think that will help a very small amount. They are also now going to recognize, under the Georgia Post Council, military police certifications, because that school is also longer than our basic mandate in the state of Georgia. I think that may have more of an impact, because if you look at some of the size of some of the bases that are located here in Georgia, there are thousands of military police officers that we can bring into our available labor pool. So those are some things they're doing on that level to try to stem this flood. A lot of agencies are doing a lot of different things that their chiefs or sheriffs may not necessarily want to do. One of them, and you guys see it all the time, and I don't like it, and I'm not going to do it, is letting uniformed police officers wear beards. Believe it or not, we actually had somebody back out of our hiring process because he was going to have to shave. Well, if that's the way you feel, you're not going to be a good fit for us anyway, so good luck to you. Small things like that shouldn't matter, y'all, but we're at the point that they may. I don't think the answer is having our officers look less professional in order to hire somebody. I don't think that's the answer. A lot of agencies, and I've noted the ones that I could find relatively easily on here, are offering sign-on bonuses. There's one agency in North Fulton, a new agency, that right now is offering a $10,000 sign-on bonus. We obviously are not in a position to do that, nor would I ask you to do that. I think where we're at as far as the sign-on bonus, I do appreciate the ability to do that, certainly. But is that the answer? No. And what we are faced with, not just as the Loganville Police Department, but what you guys are faced with as the city council and Mr. Roberts as the city manager, we can't change or quickly affect, anyway, the societal changes that are causing this problem, this shortage of people who want to be law enforcement officers. What we do have the ability to do, and what has been done, is try to throw money at it. While we do, it is absolutely necessary for us to be competitive in the market, particularly since that available labor pool is smaller and smaller and smaller every day. And just to give you an idea, and Christy can attest to this, next month will be 16 years that I've been here with the city. When I came here, if we had one single police officer opening, it was not unusual at all within 4 to 6 weeks to have well over 100 applications for that one position. Now, I probably haven't had 100 applications in the last 4 years combined, truthfully. And some that do come in, it would blow your mind what people think that they're actually going to be able to be hired as police officers with the backgrounds. We have not changed our standards. Our standards are very high. They're higher than most agencies, quite honestly. In fact, we had what we thought was a very promising certified officer candidate that when Assistant Chief Warnack dug into the background, we found that they weren't as attractive a candidate as we thought. And we're not going to move forward with that person. We don't want to, in order to fill a spot, bring people into this agency, into our community, that are not the quality of police officers that we all want. Not willing to do that. The salary survey that you've got there in front of you, this is something, I think the first time that I did this was 2014, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. We have made significant gains since then. The last one that I did prior to this was in 2018. And at that point, on the average starting salary, we were just a slight tick over 12% below average, okay? Right now, with the numbers that you have, we're still about 3.75% below that. But there are a few agencies on here that are well above other ones, and you can see those. Particularly the one that sticks out the most, obviously, is the city of Lawrenceville, which is just a few short minutes drive from here. And we're significantly below that. However, I will tell you that just yesterday, Assistant Chief Warnack and myself were at a meeting in Atlanta with our partners at DEA for an intelligence briefing, which was right scary. I wish I could share all of it with you, but I'll leave it at that. It's pretty scary. And I was talking to Myron Walker, who is the interim chief there in Lawrenceville, and even with that, he is currently 9 officers short. If money was the only answer, he wouldn't be 9 officers short. There are other agencies throughout the country, Gwinnett, DeKalb, and Atlanta, in our general area, are significantly short. And while 2 officers short does matter for us at our size, 150 or 200 officers short certainly matters to them in the higher crime areas that they're trying to police. It's not solely a Georgia problem. The city of Chicago right now, which is the most violent city in the country at this point, is at the point they're 1,000 officers short. They're facing the same challenges trying to hire 1,000 people that we are to hire 2. I don't know in today's times that you will ever hire 1,000 officers, okay? I think if you look at the overall package of what we're offering, and I know it probably sounds counterintuitive for me as the chief of police to tell you I think we're probably about where we should be, but I have to say that, and here's some caveats to that. As Mr. Roberts will certainly agree to, I try to be a very strong advocate for paying my people a competitive salary. And we are doing that when you look at our overall package. We may be a couple of $1,000s below some surrounding agencies. However, with the programs that everybody at this dais has in place as far as our insurance, what we pay out of pocket for insurance is quite a bit less than most surrounding cities and counties. The biggest difference is our retirement system. The only retirement system that he or I, either one, have found that offers the 3% multiplier that we do is the city of Decatur. They also hire police officers at $53,000 a year. Now, the question be, well, how do they do that? Well, here's how they do it. They require that those officers pay 17.25% of their base salary into that retirement system. That's a little less than $9,000 a year. So when you subtract that, not even considering what they may pay for insurance, they're actually paying their officers $42,000 and change a year, okay? None of us, and I think I speak for every city employee, none of us want to face the possibility of you guys having to modify our retirement system over a couple of $1,000s a year raise because the numbers don't work out on the favor of the employee. We have used, both myself, Chief Johnson, other city departments, I have used our retirement system for 16 years as my number one recruiting tool. And if we lose that recruiting tool, I'm really going to be in rough shape, okay? But if we increase and increase and increase, we have to face the possibility that that could come. Nobody wants that to happen. To give you an idea of the difference between us and Monroe Police Department, and they are now bringing in officers, that $49,920 is their base entry pay. It's possible for a certified police officer, depending on his specialized certification, to go in there at 52, 53, maybe even more, okay? But the multiplier difference is theirs is 2%, ours is 3%. The difference would be if you retired from the city of Monroe and your last 5 years average, let's say as a lieutenant, was $60,000, worked there 30 years. At the city of Monroe, that would put you drawing $36,000 a year, $3,000 a month retired. If you worked here with those same numbers, you're looking at $54,000 a year or $4,500 a month. You multiply that out, it's an additional $18,000 a year in retirement. And I have to tell you, maybe not for everybody, but I promise you for police officers, and I think I can speak for the firefighters as well on this topic. After 30 years of doing this, they're not going to be able to go get a retirement job, y'all. They're physically beat down, they're mentally beat down, and they really just want to retire in peace. And that's what we're offering. The difference would be if you drew retirement with those same numbers for 15 years, you would draw $270,000 more working here. If that officer lived 20 years, now you're talking about $360,000. Some of these agents, you can see how many of these agencies and cities and counties offer 401 plans. And a 401 investment plan can be a very good plan. It truly can, if you have the ability to put real money in it. None of us in government service make that kind of money. We just don't. We just don't. If you take, for example, our entry-level pay at 45 and say, well, between the officer and the city, we're going to put 10% into that. Talking about $4,500 a year. And as you can see, most of those matches range from 2 to 7 or 8%. I think there is one that does 11%, but I can't remember who it is. But anyway, you can't turn $4,500 a year into a retirement, folks. You cannot do it. In order to draw the same amount of retirement from the numbers I just gave you on a 401 plan to draw for 20 years, the day you retire, you would have to have $1,080,000 in that 401. It's not going to happen on what we get paid as government employees. I tell people all the time, in a joking manner sometimes seriously, there is the short game and the long game, and you got to play both. And I think when we look at in the total package, we are very competitive. Now, truthfully, part of the problem is, and I think that Chief Johnson would attest to this too, we have other positions with the city that are going unfilled. It's not just our departments. When you're talking to a 23-year-old prospective employee, retirement is truly an abstract concept. It was for me. All I cared about at that time was how much is my check going to be. It is often that we see some of these younger people that look at and say, well, yeah, I got to put in 6% towards my retirement. I know I don't in Loganville, but they're going to pay me more money. And when you run the numbers out, which I do quite often with people, I've got a pre-made sheet that I sit down and go over with people that sometimes to prove you'll actually bring home more money working here. Because you don't have this, the city pays our retirement contribution, and it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. As far as retention goes, to be honest with you, in the 16 years that I've been here, it is extremely rare for us to lose an officer to another agency. It's very rare. I can't say it hasn't ever happened. I can tell you that 2 of those in those 16 years came back. And quite honestly, a couple that decided to go on that probably was going to happen anyway, maybe against their choice. So I don't, while we do need to study this and keep an eye on it to make sure that we remain competitive, I can assure you this is a conversation that Mr. Robertson and I have probably more often than he would like, but very often. We do monitor this, we do look at it, we text and email back and forth. Did you see what Rockdale County just did? Now, they made a huge gap, but the headline was, Rockdale County raises deputy sheriff pay to $75,000 a year. That's not what they did. That's not what they did. They established a range. So theoretically, if you never got promoted and worked there however long it took, yes, you could start at 47 or 48, and you have the ability to top out at $75,000. You're never going to reach that, but that's the range, okay? We are very cautious, even with people that apply with us with extensive experience. We do have a small amount of flexibility of bringing people in above that minimum starting pay, okay? But we are very conscious not to bring them in above officers who are already here with comparable experience. Because if I do that, yes, I gained one, but I'm probably going to lose that one that's already proven to us what he's going to do because he's been here for years. So we do watch these numbers very carefully. I wish I knew the answer to the hiring issues in law enforcement. And I think it's there for the firefighters. It's not just, there is more work available in this country right now, in and out of the government, than any time in my life, and you can't give away money to people to get them to take these jobs. That's a societal issue, y'all. That's not a pay and benefits issue. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm looking for it, and if I find it, I promise you'll be one of the first to know. But I really don't know what it is.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Johnson, do you have anything you want to add to that? How's things from your perspective with fire? I know we talked yesterday. You're good with manpower. I know you said you're waiting on your new fire truck, which is going to be another year before you even take it.
Yes, the fire trucks are 14 to 16 months out after the approval to order is. Just to piggyback off of what Chief Lowry said. I sincerely agree with everything that he spoke of this morning. And in the history of the fire service, we have lost 7 in a very short time frame to other agencies. Back in, what was it, Mr. Roberts, 13, 14, 12? And out of the 7 that left to go to bigger departments and bigger paying departments, 5 of them came back. Because when the money started going into the bank on payroll day, they realized that everything that looked good on paper didn't look good in their bank account. So I sincerely agree with that. And like Chief Lowry said, the private jobs that are available and the amount of money that they make without sacrificing holidays and nights and weekends away from their family, it's tough to compete with that nowadays. And that's a society issue. To be in public safety, anybody that's ever been in public safety, you have to have a heart to want to do this job. You don't do it for the pay or the benefits. You do it because that's what's in you to help others. And so that's part of society of what we're combating with right now. I've lost, fixing to lose one, and he's getting married, and his fiance is in Ohio, so that's where they're going to move and make their roots at. So he's not leaving because he's dissatisfied with the job or the pay or the benefits. He's leaving for personal reasons. But I'm fortunate right now. I am fully staffed, and from where I stand, any amount of money that the employees could get in the city sustain, I'm all for it. But I would definitely hate to give them something and in 2 years take it away. So that's my stance on it.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. So,
Where's that? Showing 40,000, 06, zero missing a 9. Top,
Oh, yeah.
40,706.
Yeah, 067. Yes, sir.
okay, so I've been, public safety chairman 4 or 5 years now. And I just wanted to bring everybody in the same room so we could kick around some ideas. And Chief Lowry and I were talking, and Chief Johnson, we've made a lot of improvements at PD. Tasers, tag readers, body cameras, technology in the cars. So, obviously retirement's a big selling point. And as Chief said, we can't just throw money at them. But with the growth that this city is experiencing, with the apartments going up next to the school, more apartments going up next to Loganville Crossing or Logan Point, I want to try to stay proactive as I can. So while we may not come to any decisions today, I want the citizens and the council to know that we're here to kick around ideas, to figure this out, because I don't want to be caught flat-footed. That's just, public safety's got to be number one for everybody up here. So Chief Lowry presented a recruiting proposal that I'd like you to come up and talk about. Now, would this go for you as well, Chief Johnson, if we needed to? You could use this as well? So this is one idea Chief Lowry came up with.
I think it's just law enforcement.
Just law enforcement? Okay. All right. Well, that's why we're here talking out loud. So I'd like to turn it over again to Chief Lowry to go over the recruiting proposal. And this is something I would like to bring before council next month. So go ahead, if you would, please.
Well, this proposal is somewhat unusual. I will tell you that out of the gate. I am trying, like I said, I talked with a number of other chiefs and sheriffs and various other people regularly. And this is something that other agencies in our area have implemented. So the basics of it are this. If we hire an officer, a recruit, and we send them to the police academy under the Loganville Police Department. Then upon the day they graduate, they owe us 2 years, basically, okay? Now, what that means is, if they get out of the police academy, start going through the field training process, and a month into that say, you know what, Chief, this is just not for me. I appreciate it, but I'm gonna go back to roofing houses. There's no recovery or anything. They just left, okay? Now, if they, same time frame, after a month of FTO, they decide they're going to work for Henry County Police Department. Well, that officer doesn't owe anything. The hiring agency, though, is mandated by law. We have to file a claim. It's a civil issue, and we can bill them basically for the cost of training for that officer, which includes, is kind of broke down there in your memo, salary, benefits, expenses for uniforms, things like that, okay? There's a caveat in the law that after 15 months of graduation from the academy, then that amount becomes half of what we actually paid for the cost of training. I talked to Chief Perry in Snellville, just up the road. They have been doing this for several years. They have done, he told me in the last 18 months, 3 contracts. The last one, because of the length of time that this officer had been out of the academy, was an expense of $11,000 to get that officer. I don't want to do this necessarily as a recruiting tool. I'm not looking to poach from, let's say the sheriff's office has somebody that graduates academy and goes right back to work in the jail. Well, I'm not looking to get them a week after the graduation from the academy. But if we have a good, solid candidate that is still under contract, which we have had before apply with us a number of times, and we have had to hold that spot for, Chris, probably the last 6 or 8 months was the longest one, because we wanted that guy, and we had to hold that. This would give us the ability to hire that officer before somebody else does. Now, is it a trouble-free proposal? No, I won't mislead you and say that it is, because is there a possibility that we could hire somebody, let's say we paid $10,000 to pay out their contract to a sheriff's office somewhere. Could they come to work here and then 3 months later leave? Yes, they could. That's a possibility. But so could anybody else we hire. We can control who we hire. We can never control who leaves. I believe that our extensive background and our process would hopefully and very likely weed out anybody that was looking to do that. But could I guarantee that to y'all today? No, I can't. But you also have to think, just like I said, there is always a possibility that we're going to be $25,000 or $30,000 invested in a recruit who graduates the academy, works a month, and says, it's just not for me. And there's no recourse for that either. The only one that we have had that way, and I'll be honest with you, for most of the first 11 or 12 years that I was here in Loganville, we did not send people to the police academy. We solely hired certified police officers. The reason for that, and honestly, I would still prefer to do that. And the simple reason is this: if I hire an officer with a couple of years up to a number of years of experience, then that field training process for him or her is generally gonna be, it's a minimum of 30 days. That's our minimum. And then we can put them on solo patrol if everything works out well. For a new recruit, recent police academy graduate, the bare minimum is 90 to 120 days that they're gonna ride with a training officer. And then depending on their progress, we may have to extend that. So hiring certified officers speeds up that process. In addition to that, police academy classes don't start every first Monday. They don't. We have to find an available class, and our most recent police academy graduate, I think we introduced him last council meeting, Logan Hendricks. Our regional police academy is in Athens, and always has been. Doesn't mean we can't use other academies, and that's what we did because Athens didn't have an availability of a school seat, but Fulton County did. So that's where we sent him. One of the questions is this: at the point that I make you the job offer, but I don't have an academy class starting for 7 weeks, what do? I can't bring them and have them sit around for 7 weeks. So we have to time that out. We like to bring these people in 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time to take care of all the personnel issues that Christy and Ansley need to do with them, to get them enrolled and everything, to get them in our computer systems, to have them reviewing and testing on our agency policies, take them to the firing range, give them a chance to do some emergency driving, all those things. So although the academy is 12 weeks, we're generally going to pay them, 15 to 16 before they graduate. I'm not asking to do this on a regular basis. I would like to have it as if we have an exceptional candidate that somebody else is going to do it for if we don't, since this labor pool is smaller, the ability to do that. It's not just Snellville. Good friend of mine is the chief now in Johns Creek. He's doing it. Chief Headley in Lilburn actually has right now. They have somebody that they know in the community, and I don't know the entire story of that, but they actually have officers that are mentoring this person to complete their high school diploma so they can hire them and send them to the police academy. That's where we're at in this process, folks. That's what we're down to. I did put in the memo to be capped no more than 2 per year, and there is a dollar amount cap. If it's beyond that, we won't do it. Most of them are not going to hit anywhere close to that cap, but I brought it below what we would be invested in somebody sending to the academy. So it is just another tool for us to use if necessary to hire a good candidate that may be under contract.
Thank you, Chief. So with that, I guess I'll open it up to the floor. Anybody have any comments? You want to talk about this a little bit more?
Well, I've been thinking about it. I would have a question, and I don't know the feasibility of this. Is it possible to fill the 2 positions that we're short right now? Can we have a service agreement with the county where we can somehow work with them if they have officers that want? I mean, I don't even know what I'm trying to ask you.
No, they're Sloan, here's what they're facing there at the county, and they're over 30 officers short. They're not gonna make any kind of agreement to let us get one now, and I'll say this, so, and I'll use my own personal experience, because that's where I started. When I started at the Walton County Sheriff's Office in the first part of 1994, you were never going to work patrol in Walton County without doing your time in the jail. The jail is not a fun place to be, and it's not a fun place to work. You're locked in there just like they are. The only difference is after 12 hours, you get to go home, okay? You don't get to leave and go get something to eat. Whatever they eat, that's generally what you eat unless you bring something with you. It is, in my mind, the hardest job in law enforcement, period, is working in a correctional setting. So, times have changed, and we don't have the applicants. They have people now. And keeping in mind, when I worked in the jail, if we had 100 inmates, we were fretting on what we were going to do with them, and now they have over 500 every single day. They have people that they hire to be jail officers, and they take them on their orientation tour to go around the different areas of the jail. And if you've never been through it, it's a lot bigger than it looks from the outside. It's large. And they have people that don't even finish the tour and say, hey, how do I get back to the front? This is not for me. They do still send people to the police academy. But what they are faced with is they've got openings in the jail and on patrol. They're not in a position to move these people from patrol or from the jail to patrol like it was when I worked there. So you've got people who are now certified peace officers, and that makes them deputy sheriffs, that want to do something else in law enforcement, but they're not going to be able to right there. And there are certainly some exceptions to that, but they're hiring people that are already certified from other agencies from outside to fill these patrol deputy positions. They are in a more difficult situation. Sheriff's offices than police departments, quite honestly, because by constitutional law, there is no constitutional law that the sheriff has to patrol the county. There is in the Constitution that he has to secure the common jail and the courts. So those have to be their priorities. I would say, to follow up on that, in all likelihood, the most likely candidate that we would get that would fit the criteria that we're talking about for this will probably come from a sheriff's office. That's the truth. That's where, in talking with Chief Perry, the last one that he did, or the last two, were Gwinnett County deputy sheriffs that were working jail, and that was not what they want to do for a career.
Would what you're asking to do, would that be in any way harmful to our relationship? Say you brought some guys over from Walton County?
That's a good question, and I think if we were talking about grabbing up, 5 or 6, honestly, probably. If it was one here, then look, I'm not going to destroy the very good relationship we have over doing that. Now, if I had an exceptional candidate, I'm not going to surprise them. The chief deputy and I talk most days, several times a day. We started in that same jail together and came all the way up together. We have a very good, solid relationship. And any time since I've been here that we hired anybody from Walton County, I always talk to them and say, look, he's going to turn in notice, but I want you to hear it from me. I've hired so-and-so. I think we owe them that respect, quite honestly. Are they going to be excited about it? No, they're not. But in light of everything that was going on, are they going to understand it? Yeah, they are. I don't know that they're in a position to do that because they've got a lot more people under those contracts than. And look, we do this same contract. These recent academy graduates that we brought in and introduced to you guys, they're under that with us. Okay, they're under that with us. Is it possible if one of them was unhappy about something and another agency would buy them out? Maybe, and if they do, there's really not, I don't have any recourse on that. So I wouldn't risk destroying our relationship over that, is the short, simple answer.
Chief, just to bring up
Sir.
some history here, at least 2 councils previously have looked at the salaries with police officers and fire. And both of the previous councils felt that we could not be behind the county pay because it's such a close relationship. So y'all might want to think about,
Yeah, but I also think you gotta think beyond Walton County. For example, I won't use any names, but say we have an officer who's in it, you know, that Greg knows, the Assistant Chief Warnock knows in Atlanta, and he knew him from the academy, and he's having a rough go, and he's just like, I'm tired of Atlanta. Well, we know him, well, Greg does. He gets him in front of Dick, and they talk, and I think that's what we gotta think about, is more of one-off situations where maybe
Yeah.
someone knows someone that can vouch for somebody from a different agency. He's having a tough go. Let's get him over here, little city, right? Instead of just thinking Walton, we're not going to poach from Walton County.
well, if you.
Well, and I think if, to answer both of those things, yes, and I'll be on, I had a very long discussion, with a very sharp young man recently that is under contract somewhere else. He is a relatively recent academy graduate, first in January, and where he's working, in the first 28 days after he graduated academy, he'd already been in a fatal officer-involved shooting. He has already had surgery to repair an on-duty injury fighting with a violent suspect. He's going to go somewhere, and somebody is going to pay out his contract. 100% is what's going to happen. We don't want to lose those kind of people, is the short answer to that. And I agree. I'm not going down and stand outside the police academy and say, hey, call me. You know, that's not what we're talking about here. On the issue of the pay, Mr. Wiley, you're correct, but now I'll point this out. The county's cost of insurance is it's not significantly higher, but it is a little bit higher. A few years ago, it was after I left. They now have to pay a small amount towards their individual insurance, which is city employees here, we don't. When you add those things in, and in order to maximize what the retirement system they have, in order to get the county contributions, as you see, they're gonna have to contribute out of their own pocket. When you take those things away, they'll actually make more money working for us. Now, if I can get them to come and sit down and let me show them that, I can prove it in black and white. The problem is when you're talking about early 20s, mid-20s folks, again, the retirement's an abstract concept, and there's nothing that you or I can do to change that, because I was in the same boat. My understanding of the county retirement system when I went to work in law enforcement was, if I live long enough, somebody will send me a check here. That was the whole understanding. But as I've gotten older, and I think Christy will certainly attest to this because I drive her nuts about it, I have really become a student of how this retirement works, because I'm not that far from it, so it matters a little more to me.
Chief Lauer, you're not going anywhere.
Well, not yet.
No,
Not yet.
no,
I
no.
still
Even when
got
you
me.
can retire, you're sticking around.
Not yet.
No. You're staying with us for a while.
Not yet.
Councilman Duvall, what do you got?
So, just in, I know you, is there a minimum age? I mean, I know you were talking earlier, you said, you know, when you're trying to convince a 23-year-old that's
For-
post-certified
like
to
to
join.
get
Yeah,
certified?
But right.
Yes. You can actually be post-certified in the state of Georgia at 18 years old.
Okay.
There are several problems with that, quite honestly. The laws that allow you to carry a firearm, you know, concealed not, require you to be 21. And there's not really clear-cut law that exempts an 18-year-old peace officer from that. The other thing, and Christy and I actually talked about this a few months ago, I don't know that there are going to be very few liability insurance carriers that want to insure an 18-year-old to be a police officer. 21's, look, I know I've gotten old, but a couple of these younger ones, when I'm talking to them and looking at them, and I realize I had already been doing this almost 8 years when you were born. It's supervising it, you know, it's like, it's different. It's different.
So what about, and I'm just kind of asking the questions, like, fire, where do you start where do you get your recruits from?
We give them in several different manners. Walton County has a high school program to where you can do dual enrollment. And so your senior year, you basically you take the Georgia Firefighters Standards and Training class to become a certified firefighter, and you get elective credits to go for your senior graduating credits. State of Georgia, you have to be 18 years old before you can be state certified. So Walton County has that program with Loganville High School, Walnut Grove High School. I have an individual employed now, a couple individuals that came from that program. So that's a good recruiting tool from us. I believe Walton County is hiring, fixing to hire 8, I believe I was told, that graduated through that program.
So, and I know, so as a city, you know, you have the opportunity to have people work their way up in other positions. I mean, and obviously, you don't want to hire a firefighter and then 5 years later they go to police, but I mean, that is an opportunity for them to get on the payroll, start collecting, putting toward retirement, and then if they go to be a police officer, you've already vetted them for several years. I mean, I know that happens. We just recently had one that, right?
Well, he wasn't one of his firefighters.
Yeah.
I didn't poach him. No, he was,
Right.
he was a firefighter in Douglas County.
Right.
So, the short, yes, I mean, obviously, you know, under the city personnel policy, if we're hiring any, or for us particularly, any internal applications are considered before any external. So the short answer, yes, we would look at that. Now, that would obviously be probably a closed-door discussion between me and Tim about that, but we have not had that here. And to go back about how, you know, things that we do we keep our positions posted. The Georgia Municipal Association has a job board. We keep it on there. Much to my chagrin, we use Facebook quite a bit, other social media platforms. The police academies in Athens and now the one in Fulton that we've got good contacts there, they have job boards you can put your flyer on and that kind of thing. The one in Athens, I'm not able to do it regularly, but I do, and I like to do it, and I do it when my schedule allows. I go down and teach in those academy classes. And there is still the ability in the state of Georgia to use the Hope Scholarship or VA benefits to sponsor yourself through the police academy without an agency sponsor. Those people are not beholden to anybody. So I give a little, not during the class, but when it's right, I'll give them a little recruiting spiel and pass cards out. And honestly, one of our best recruiting tools is our own officers, because they know a lot of people. And they'll call them and say, hey, are you guys hiring? And we want them to encourage other people to come. You know, for one, they are unlikely to recommend somebody to us that they don't want to work with. So it's a constant ongoing, we flood it as best we can trying to find people.
And are you recruiting at college campuses too as well, or?
Yes, actually, we've got a good contact that there's I don't know, it's probably 10 years ago now. The Post Council allows now, it's not a lot of them, but there are several college campuses that are providing police academies. Reinhardt University was one of the first, they changed the name, so I'm probably gonna say it wrong. Over in Covington, one of the colleges there does it. The advantage of that, not only do they get their Georgia Post certification, but of course they earn college credits at the same time. And we actually, we're in contact with them. The guy that runs that program, I've known and taught classes with over the years. We keep our flyers and down there, we'll go sometimes and teach over there, and we have actually had them recommend people, you know, hey, I want to send this, I think this is somebody you need to talk to. And this question about the age came up. They had a very recent top of the class graduate who was 18 years and 5 months old. I can't hire him. I wish, you know, best thing he can do is get older quick, but not much you can do on that.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
Dick, I agree with you when you say our best tool is the people you already got.
Yes, 100%.
Are there any legalities? Many industries do this already.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any legalities that say we cannot pay our current police officer, for example, $500 if they find us a recruit that we hire and retain for 90 days?
I think that would, I mean, I think that would be a, yeah,
We do it.
no, we're not.
We
We're
talk
not.
about doing it.
We talk about it. Yeah. Referral.
Yeah, I mean, they are your best tool, and I know your current officers get you a lot of people to
They
come
do,
see you.
yes,
That's a good
absolutely,
thing.
absolutely. And look, I don't want it to say, we talk regularly to a number of people that are interested, that may not apply. But we do take the time. I spent over an hour standing in our lobby week before last, talking to a DeKalb County police officer that lives here in the city, that I'm optimistic will apply with us. She's done good things in DeKalb. She lives here, and our commission knows the great majority of our officers. I would love to see her apply, but that part, she's got to take that step before we can do it. But she has everything she needs in order to do that, so.
Is she already vested there?
I think she has been there about 4 years, 4 or 5 years, yeah, 4 or 5 years. But there, and then speaking of that, in the cab, which of course is not included on that printout that you have, but when I started in law enforcement, DeKalb County there was no retirement system anywhere better than theirs. Now, their multiplier is less than the city of Social Circle. And you're not gonna be able to retire from there. That's the long and the short of it. You're gonna have to do some serious work, which you should do anyway. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You're gonna have to do a whole lot of work on your own, because the pension they offer at a 1% multiplier is just, it's not gonna be a retirement.
Do you feel handicapped by not paying as high a beginning salary as the county does?
No, in all honesty, Mayor, I know it sounds counterintuitive to say no, but I really don't, because our guys are actually bringing home more money. They are now. And I'll be honest, I spend a great deal of time making sure that everybody understands that. By, in emails and taking time and making flow charts on the board and, but no, I mean, look, I won't tell you that I wouldn't like it to be even, but if doing that puts us in a position that we may be faced, but I would be afraid right now, quite honestly. None of us know what the economy is going to do. I am hopeful that it is gonna recover because what money that I do have invested is, I can't even look at it anymore for, I don't wanna throw up in the trash can. And I expect most everybody in this room is in the same boat. It's devastating. I don't wanna be in that boat agency-wide, that doing something now, in these really, really uncertain times, right this minute, would put all of us back here in a couple of years having a far less pleasant discussion about what we're gonna do because we can't meet what we agreed to. And I think, both in my discussions, I know with Mr. Robertson, I think Natalie as well, with people in other cities that have done some of these things, we have all three, maybe the exact same words, been told, we don't know how we're gonna sustain this long-term. Y'all agree with that? None of us want that.
You know, if the applicant gets to talk to you, I have no problem that you can overcome all that. I really don't.
We
The problem
try
is the
really
one you
hard.
don't get to see.
It's just, honestly, it's a little bit of a,
Dilemma.
yeah, it's a numbers game. And, right now, we do have some that, I'll give you the same analogy that the director of Post, Mike Ayers, gave Governor Kemp when he asked him this question. How bad a shape are we in? He said, well, we're not quite at the point of hiring 500-pound, one-legged folks, but we're not far away. We're not gonna lower our standards. If that means those of us that are here have to do a little more, then that's what they've been doing. They have done an admirable, spectacular job doing that, filling in where we need it done without complaint. And we'll keep doing that because and I think these guys will certainly attest too in the fire service. If you lower your standards and hire somebody that shouldn't be there, that's not, they may be qualified, but they're not a good fit for that agency, spending 12 to 24 hours with that person can destroy a whole shift, a whole agency, and we don't want to do that. We can't do that, so.
I think it's important to note too, we talked about starting pay. That's not the only thing that, we have to be careful when we talk just starting pay, because you've got officers that have been with us for years and years and years.
Right.
And so when you raise that starting pay, you're getting them very
You've got
close
to
to what
adjust
these people that have been working, 8, 10, 12 years. So you're almost to a point where you have to look at everyone's salary overall, which increases the whole bottom number.
Yes.
And not just salaries. That's gonna
Significant.
increase your retirement, it's gonna increase your workers' comp. So it's a definite balancing act. And I really believe a lot of times, it's not just money. Sometimes the employees realizing that they're appreciated and they're taken care of, it means a lot. People don't necessarily leave places because of what they're paid. More often than not, they leave because they feel underappreciated. So I think that's
agree.
something to keep in
Very
mind as
true.
well.
I agree with that 100%.
City Manager Roberts, you're going to love this question. Everybody stare at Danny because he's going to turn white. This 3.75 below average, we can't do anything about that? We can't,
Well, my question to you, it would be, when you do that, then you're gonna do fire, and then when you do fire, you're gonna do public safety, public works, then when you do public works, you're gonna do highways and streets, sewer, water, stormwater.
I'm public
Right.
safety. I'm just public safety chairman.
Well, trust me, Chief and I have long discussions. He says, Danny, I'm just police chief, right, but I'm the city manager, and I look at all these issues.
I
Because
understand.
as bad as he got it, it's not nearly as bad as enterprise fund. They have guys on call every other week now, where they used to do on call once a month. Now they're doing it every other week. So twice a week, on the weekends, one person cannot do anything for the whole weekend. His son's one of them. We have looked at money for that. It's just,
Would raising taxes be an option here with the Walton Tribune front and center here? Put that on your front page.
no.
No one wants to
it
raise
would not.
taxes.
Because the
Don't do
problem
that,
is, when you price yourself out of business, 2 years from now, if something happens to the economy, where's this money come from? I mean, I lived through the crisis as a department head. Christie was here, Natalie. It was hard. If we keep giving raises,
I'm just
what-
looking
no,
at
no, right, and I'm giving you,
3.75.
this is the answer. So we give raises, and then we come back in 2 years and says, look, we can't sustain this. You're not gonna raise taxes. I've been there, done that. We've been here almost 30 years with the city. I can count on one hand how many times we raised taxes. We're gonna say, we'll figure it out. But one thing that will not happen is public safety will not be touched. So then it goes to city hall workers, code enforcement, highways and streets. It goes to all the people. And one of the things we all understand is these people get called, or are subject to get called anytime. But highways and streets, public works, they work every single day. People use them. So this is not an issue with money, because if you look on paper, we're above everybody on your sheet when you add the benefits in. If you cut benefits, you think you have a bad hiring policy now, wait till then. Then you're gonna lose everyone.
No, we're not gonna touch benefits. I just want to know about
Well,
taxes.
but yeah, here's the thing. I only bring in so much money a year. When I start exceeding that, then two things are gonna happen. Cut services or cut people. And you as elected officials, you're not gonna say, well, Danny, go ahead and lay off one firefighter, one police. You're gonna say, Danny, do we need 8 girls working the window? Yeah, we do. But it's hard to say no when I know everybody deserves it. But I also know I look at the numbers every single day along with Natalie, and I can't make 1 and 1 equal 5. It just doesn't happen. If you try it, it'll catch up to you. And I think we're heading to a position of 2009 again. If you look at home values, 30% increase in 1 year. When that money stops flowing from the government, you're gonna see foreclosures. And then when you see foreclosures, everybody in this room is funded by the general fund, which is half of your property tax, all your property taxes, $6 million for what we collect. Them 2 budgets alone are over $6 million, just those 2 departments. You still got all of City Hall, code enforcement. You got 7 other departments that survive on general fund. So where's the cuts gonna come from? So 3%, I'm not worried about 3%, because when somebody says, well, Danny, I can go to Monroe to make more, yeah, you can, but let me show you on paper where you're gonna lose. If we're debating money, I'm gonna show you where you lose. Now, when I was in the fire department, hey, I'm gonna go run more calls. I can't compete with more calls. He can't compete with more calls. It is what it is. But if you're leaving for money, let me show you where you're making a mistake. And typically when we do that, that's why they come back, because they go over there and they say, oh, well, I got to put into my retirement. Oh, I didn't do that at Loganville. Another thing that Chief didn't say, which he knows, he just oversight, was in Decatur, they don't pay FICA, which means when you retire, you don't get Social Security.
That's right.
We pay FICA here.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a huge, huge thing.
So what do we do with the growth that's still to come?
Well, we
I
manage
mean,
it
I know
like
we're okay, but we
we're beyond okay. We're good.
we're still short a couple officers.
1 officer,
One? Two.
1
Okay.
retired, 2.
I just don't want, like I said earlier, I don't want to be caught flat-footed with the growth that's still to come. These guys are running, how many calls a month? I used to get the numbers.
Rough numbers, a little under 3,000.
They stay pretty busy.
If it was a money issue, then I would say yes, but this is not a money issue.
So
This
there's
is
no.
people don't want to work issue.
Right, okay.
You
So
know,
basically 3% no. Jay, no. Just tell me no, I'll move on.
it's not in the budget. They have a 2% raise in the future budget,
Yeah.
but I mean,
What would we have to do to do 3%?
across the board,
No, public safety.
I mean, it's $130,000. And then, what about the fallout from the other employees?
because you do have to be careful.
I know, listen, I know.
Because-
I mean, Brandon has had a hard enough time now. They say, my God, if you're not public safety, they just treat you like, what here?
Well,
So
public
let's go
safety's
to,
gotta
let's go
put
to
up-
Walton.
And
They-
you don't want to create a disparity
Right.
No,
between your
true.
departments, because we do hear, I do, in the position we sit in, we hear those complaints. Well, we don't get nothing because we're not public safety, or we don't matter. And you don't want to give that impression. You don't want to tell those other departments, well, you don't matter as much as these, because they do. They all matter. It's just different ways that they matter. So it's definitely a balancing act between everything.
That's why we do, dinners, lunches, gift bags. I mean, just appreciate, small things that say, hey, we thank you. Me going, chiefs going, department heads going to their employees and just saying, hey, thanks for what you do. Those sometimes are more than money. Because sometimes when you do give a raise, sometimes it can have a negative effect. All I get is 1%. Really? I'd rather get nothing. I mean, I've been here long enough. I hear it always, but
Okay. So members of the Public Safety Committee, the recruiting proposal, are we okay with this? Can we talk about this next month? I'd like to move forward with it.
I'm okay with it,
You're okay with it?
right? I mean,
Okay.
I think, I like what Chief has to say as far as, it's not his intent to go out there and search Walton County and the others, automatically, or he's gonna moderate it, and I think that's fine.
Melanie? All right, so, before I make a motion, is there any other discussion? I don't want to keep everybody here all day, but is there any other discussion that
So-
that we're all here talking?
The other question is, okay, you said you're down to now, you've got prospects, you're working, that you're always working.
Yes.
Let's say you filled those two. There's a question at some point, I saw in here where you said, well, some agencies are looking at overfilling. Is that ever a consideration?
I'm gonna tell you that, I never heard of that until a month or so ago. And what they were doing, and honestly, it started with, and I wasn't eavesdropping, I just happened to be sitting next to them at a police academy graduation, so I asked them about it. So what they have done with this overfilling is, if they're, have an authorized strength of 50 officers, they're allowing them to hire 55, with the caveat that these 5 overfills can't be certain, they have to be people you're gonna send to the academy, because they're making the assumption that by the time those guys get out of the academy, you're gonna lose somebody. I think that's a dangerous assumption. And I asked, I said, well, how many times have you ever actually had any overfill hires? And they said, oh, we never get to it. It's, I hate to use the term, but it's true for some of these other cities, that what you're putting up when you take an extra 5 minutes to look at is smoke and mirrors, I think that's a dangerous assumption that you're losing people. I think that money that's being allocated for that, now, if you're going to allocate, and you have it available to allocate 5 additional law enforcement positions, and you're losing those kind of people, then my argument to you in that position is we need to allocate that money within the agency, not over here.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah,
that's not something you're looking to do.
It's an odd
Okay.
concept, but there are some that are doing it.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chief Johnson, come on up for a minute. Can you give us kind of just a recap of what your plans are going into the rest of the year? Talk about the fire truck again. I know we're not gonna see it for a while, but just kind of give me your plans.
So, yeah, so I met with Mr. Roberts. We discussed some money that was allocated through SPLOST for, to purchase fire truck. I've been working with getting prices, quotes from multiple vendors. And I've got it narrowed down to, the company that we currently buy trucks from, for multiple reasons. Some of the other ones, the service areas to send these trucks to be worked on was in Alabama. Some of them's in Forsyth. When you talk about a large fire truck that's broke down on the side of the road that has to be towed, that would be a huge cost to the city to have that done. So we've been using Fireline for several years. We have a very good working relationship with them. And so I've been working with specking a couple trucks out through them. We're in the final stages of putting all that together, and as soon as I get that, I'll meet with Mr. Roberts, and we'll see when we could present. That's on any truck right now, with the way everything's working, is a 14 to a 16-month delivery time. So, so hopefully we can give some of our older trucks a break that we've been, the last truck, you know, it kind of died in 78, on 78, and cost quite a bit to repair. With those kind of repairs on a truck, it's kind of like wrecking a car. It's never totally right when you ever get it back. So we're looking to move that to a reserve, like a backup unit, because it is a ladder truck, and we have a ladder truck that's a front line now, and I would like to keep one as a backup in case that one goes in the shop. We don't leave the city without a ladder truck. So that's my plans with that. Like I said, it's in the budget to hire 3 additional firefighters for next budget, and I'm excited about trying to replace, you know, beef up some of the crews, and looking forward to all that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Chief, when do we get through paying for the big truck?
I think we have, yeah, 2
So-
years.
4 more years?
Yeah, 4 more years, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, so that would free up $150,000 a year
Yes, sir.
at that point in time.
Danny, that's the one you bought, right, when you were chief?
The 2.
Okay. Anybody else have anything before we wrap it up? Good. Thanks, chief. All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recruiting proposal and present it in the June council hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah. You want to second it first? Okay. Second, Bill's on board. All opposed? Good. All right, passes. So pretty good? Practice for my mayoral run. Just kidding, Skip. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Make a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye, aye, and we're